There were no signs of being followed. Max felt confident that we had made our escape, but neither Bax nor Duncan felt as secure. They elected to find new transportation while Katie and I found something better suited to our circumstances. Max decided he would pick up some items as well. Bax and Duncan dropped the three of us off at the door and left to take care of their task. Max said he'd meet us at the door when we were finished. He grabbed a cart and walked away whistling some unknown tune. Katie grabbed her own cart and headed towards the women's department. "How in the world do you guys stay so calm?" I asked her. "I'm a nervous wreck." "You certainly don't look nervous now. Last night you looked terrified, but tonight you seem a lot more relaxed," she responded. I thought about what she said for a minute. She was right. I wasn't as wound up as I had been the night before. Maybe I was getting used to all the excitement. That worried me a little. I didn't have much time to think about it. Katie had other things in mind for me. "Hey, Earth to Gabby," she said, waving her hands in front of me. "I'm here, sorry, I just zoned out for a second." "Well, you've got to concentrate now. We have to find something that you can move around in but still keep you looking like a woman. I'm guessing jeans and a t-shirt is out." "Not totally." "Here, try these," she said as she handed me a pair of jeans and couple smallish shirts. "Go try these on and see how you can move." I did as directed. The jeans were a bit more form-fitting than I was used to. They had some sort of elastic or something woven into them that made them stretch far more than a normal denim would. I could easily move around in them. I had just pulled one of the last shirts over my head when I heard Katie's voice. "Everything fit okay?" she asked. "The jeans will work great." "The shirts are too small though," I answered. "Too small?" "Let me have a look." I unlocked the dressing room door and she came in. She had changed into a pair of canvas-colored pants and dark green long-sleeve fitted tee. "You look great. Those shirts fit you perfectly." "What do you mean, perfectly?" "They barely cover my stomach and they nearly look painted on." "Yes, and what's wrong with that? You've got a body that most women would kill for. You might as well show it off a little. Besides, it's more feminine to show a little skin. If that doesn't make you feel better, then think of it as giving someone less to grab onto." She had made good points on both accounts. I turned and looked at myself in the mirror. I hated to admit it, but I looked pretty good. Katie had started removing all the tags from what I was wearing. "What are you doing?" I asked. "I'm just pulling the tags off. You'll look silly if you leave them on." "Huh? No sense taking everything off just to pay for it. Then putting everything back on as soon as we get to the house. We'll give them the tags at the register." "Okay, don't get frustrated with me. Remember, I'm new at this living on the run thing," I grinned. "Don't worry, you're way too cute for me to get frustrated with." I didn't know what to say to that. I wondered if she meant cute in a "you're someone I'd like to spend more time with" way, or the "you're cute but in a little sister sort of" way. I decided to just change the subject. "That takes care of the clothing part. How about some better footwear?" I asked. "You read my mind." "Let's go," she answered. "Hang on a sec, I just remembered something," I said. I ran and grabbed a couple pairs of socks and a few pair of panties. They weren't the highest quality, but my options were limited. With that taken care of, I went back to Katie. She saw what I had done and smiled. "That's a good idea. I think I'll do the same." After she made her round, we made our way over to the shoe department. Katie has normal-sized female feet. At a size 11, I have relatively large feet for a girl. Consequently, I had a much smaller selection to choose from. Katie offered her advice. The sneakers or hikers would probably be best. Style required the dark brown leather hikers. I do have some fashion sense even if I am male. Besides, if the occasion called for it, the boot would offer better protection for my feet. Katie took a little longer to decide. She ended up with what looked like a black motorcycle-styled boot. If G.I. Joe and Barbie ever had a daughter, I imagine she would look something very much like Katie did. I think that just about covers it, Katie remarked. You're probably right. Max is more than likely waiting for us at the front anyway. We better get going. I replied. We returned to the front of the store and paid for our items. Max was waiting for us just as we thought he would be. Why do girls take so long to decide what to wear? He asked jokingly. Because we like to make you guys wait around for us, I taunted back. I thought it might be something like that, he laughed. Now let's get going, we've spent too much time here already. I see you've been shopping, Max. Did you buy all the ammo in the store? Katie asked. No, I didn't. I think I left a few boxes back there. Maybe, he grinned. Don't you guys have enough of that already? You can never have too much, my dear, he replied regally. Come on, let's get out of here. Bax and Duncan were waiting for us just outside the door. They had dumped the stolen BMW and picked up a four-wheel drive Jeep Grand Cherokee. We all climbed in and then we set off towards the lake house. I still didn't know where we were going exactly. I was again hit with how much my life had changed in such a short period of time. The part that really worried me was that I didn't know if I could ever go back to my old life. I had learned so much about myself. I felt more comfortable as a female. The initial fear and nervousness I had felt at the beginning had quickly faded. A growing sense of correctness was replacing the older ones. I had made more friends in the last 24 hours than I had in the last 10 years. I just felt real for the first time in my life. I must have dozed off thinking about all that was going on. We were no longer moving when I opened my eyes. Bax, Katie and Duncan were outside stretching and Max was nowhere to be seen. Katie, Jensen is pushing his men pretty hard to get to you. Trying to raid the club was a big move. It's probably time to meet with Kent and give him the disc. Hopefully, that will get Jensen off the street. That should help things calm down out here for you, Duncan told Katie. You're right. I was hoping to keep it as insurance, but it looks like I don't have a choice now, she answered. It's too late to do anything tonight. Let's get everyone inside and get some rest. We'll get a fresh start in the morning, Bax offered. Sounds good to me. It's been a long day. I'll get Gabby and get us girls settled, Katie said. She walked over and knocked on my window. I was already awake, so I opened the door and stepped out. Good, you're awake. I won't have to get Bax to carry you inside, she smiled. I might be awake, but it would still be fun to be carried inside, I grinned back. You're such a bad girl. Shame on you, she giggled. I was always a good boy. It's more fun being a bad girl. I've created a monster, Katie commented. Come on, let's get inside and get cleaned up before bed. Max is going to get something to eat if you're hungry. I am a little hungry. We didn't get to finish our dinner. I followed her into a large rustic-looking log house. The inside was warm and inviting with plenty of natural wood everywhere. I was happy to see the interior was void of any stuffed and mounted animal heads. I really need to stop watching so many movies. Katie led me down a short hall to a decent-sized room. "We'll stay here. The guys can sort themselves out. There's a small bathroom and shower through that door," she said, pointing to a door. "I think that sounds like a good place to start with," I grinned. "Me first. I could use a hot shower. It's been quite an eventful day." "What? You think basically changing gender, getting into a bar fight, stealing a car, getting into a car chase, and generally running for your life is stressful?" Katie questioned sarcastically. "Yeah, and you don't? Okay, maybe it's just a little stressful. Fine, grab a shower, I'm going to go check in on the guys." With that, she left. I stripped out of my clothes and started the shower. It was strange to see myself as male again. I had really started thinking of myself as female. I didn't particularly like what I saw, so I switched off the light and stepped into the steaming shower. The hot water felt really good. I could feel a lot of tension wash away as I stood under it. After a few minutes, I got to work washing my face and hair. This bathroom was every bit as well stocked as the one at the club. I had no trouble finding everything I needed. A few minutes later and I was scrubbed clean and enjoying a nice warm rinse. The adrenaline I had been running on had drained away and I felt very tired. My little nap in the car hadn't helped out much. I hoped that leaning against the shower wall might help. It did a little, but I slowly slid down the wall and ended up sitting under the falling water with my arms wrapped around my legs. I sat there and tried to process some of what had happened so far. All I managed to figure out was thinking about it was stressing me out. My life, as it had been, was lost. I didn't know what the next day would bring. There was a price on my head, so I could be killed at any time. To avoid that, I was disguising myself as a girl. Doing that had awakened some thoughts and feelings in me that seemed to say that being female was a truer form of myself. After spending the day as female, those feelings had been reinforced. It wasn't all bad. I had learned a lot about how I react to stressful situations, made some new friends, and saw things I never would have had the opportunity to see. Then there was Katie. The vision of her face kept floating through my mind. She had a strength that I found to be intoxicating. She was a girl that could take care of herself but didn't carry around a huge attitude. She was quick to smile even in tense situations. She didn't treat me any differently as female as I was as male. Did I mention she was gorgeous? A knock at the door saved me from my thoughts. "Gabrielle, everything okay in there?" "You've been in here over an hour," inquired Katie. "I'm sorry. I didn't realize I'd been in here that long," I answered, turning the water off. "I'll be out in a minute." "Not to worry, Max is back with Chinese food." "I just thought you might be hungry." My grumbling stomach informed me that I was indeed starving. "I'll be down in a minute, save some for me." "Okay, but you better hurry, I don't know how long I can hold off Bax," Katie laughed. I finally heard from Agent Kent. "I'll fill you in downstairs." With that, she left. I climbed out of the shower and dragged myself off with one of the softest towels I had ever felt. Max and Duncan definitely knew how to treat their guests. I again wondered how long I'd be staying with them. I looked in the mirror, and for a split second I thought there was a man in the bathroom with me. Fortunately, it was only the reflection of my old self. For some reason I found it distressing. That image seemed so foreign, as if from another lifetime. I didn't want to get thinking about it, so I quickly got dressed and headed downstairs. At the foot of the stairs, I heard the others' voices and followed them into an open and inviting kitchen. Duncan was busy unloading enough food for a small army. Katie was talking to Max and Bax was halfway through his first box of fried rice. "Feeling better?" asked Max a little. "Yes," I answered. "I hope you're hungry." "I think I got a little carried away ordering," he smiled. "I think I can help with that." Even though it seems Bax has already gotten started, I said, glancing at Bax as he finished off his rice. "Ah yes, the bottomless pit. I knew he'd be more than willing to help." "Hey, I'm a big boy and big boys need plenty to eat," Bax grinned. "Sure, just save some of that for the ladies, big boy," Max returned. Duncan fished out a box and handed it to me. "Here you go, love. Sweet and sour chicken for you, right?" "Thanks, Duncan, that sounds great." I wondered how these guys always seemed to know exactly what I wanted. "You're welcome. Have a seat and relax." When it's just the four of us here, we usually just hang out and eat in the kitchen. The dining room is usually reserved for more formal affairs. Katie had picked out her meal and was sitting on an empty spot she had opened up on one of the counters. Bax was leaning on another with Max taking up the last space of open counter. I found a nice comfy spot on the floor and Duncan just ate where he stood. "Ready to hear the news?" Katie asked. "As long as it's good. If it's bad, just wait until the morning." "I've had a rough enough day as it is," I replied with mock drama. "Lucky for you it's good. I talked with our secret agent man and he's ready for the disc. We get to deliver it tomorrow morning. Once he has it, he can get the arrest warrant for Jensen. Then they'll pick him up and we all can breathe a big sigh of relief. We won't be totally out of the woods, but a lot of the heat will die down once that is done." "Sounds great to me, the sooner the better. I've got a whole new life to get to." "Are we all going to deliver the disc?" I asked. "Not all of us, just you and me. Agent Kent said he wanted to meet you and I'll be damned if I'm just gonna let you go all alone. It'll be easier for the two of us to get around anyway and easier for just two to get out if anything bad happens." "Okay, I was fine until you got to the bad happens part." "Don't worry, it'll probably go just fine." "Only if your luck changes," commented Duncan. We chatted for a little while after that. I was so tired my vision was starting to lose focus and get all blurry. I said my goodnights and headed upstairs. I stripped out of my clothes, leaving just panties, and climbed into bed. I thought about how much better being femme made me feel as I drifted off to sleep. "Wake up, sleepyhead, we've got some work to do," Katie said, waking me. "What time is it?" I asked. "Daytime," she answered sarcastically. "Duh, I can see the sun's up. Can you be just a little more specific?" "A little after 8. Sleep well?" "I guess. It feels like I just closed my eyes, though. I hate it when that happens. We've got a busy day ahead, so let's get moving. Breakfast is almost ready. I'll see you in the kitchen after you get dressed." I dragged myself out of bed and started to get dressed. I felt stiff and tense. The last few days were catching up to me. I took a few minutes to do a little stretching to help loosen me up. That helped a little and I finished getting dressed. What did I get myself into? I asked myself as I pulled my hair back into a ponytail and slid my shoes on. I made my way down the hall listening to the sounds of breakfast being prepared. Max and Katie were laughing at something Duncan had said. I found it amazing that they could be laughing and joking after all that had happened the previous evening. I reminded myself that they were people who lived a completely different life than mine, or at least the life I used to have. It had only been a day and I already felt a million miles away. I suddenly felt very lonely. I could not contact my family or my few friends. I did not want to put them in danger. I knew so very little about the people I was with. My instincts told me there were no better people to be in that mess with. They showed amazing compassion toward each other and me. They undoubtedly had skills that would be essential to our survival. And I liked them. There was an almost tangible feeling of family with them. They cared and protected one another. I needed someone and they had accepted me with all my baggage. I may not have known them long, but I was hoping to get to know them better. "Well, good morning, love," smiled Duncan. "How do you like your eggs?" "I vote for scrambled," Katie called out. $10 says it's over easy, Max bet, laying a 10 on the table. "I'll take that action, Max," Katie returned. "Well, Gabby, it looks like we have a wager on our hands," Duncan asked. "What about you, Duncan? You in?" I asked. "Not me, kid, Max is going to lose enough money without me adding in." "I will say you're probably a scrambled kind of girl, though." "Very well then. Scrambled please," I answered. "You guys really are trying to spoil me." "Ha, told you so, Max," Katie said, grabbing the cash off the table. "Damn, she's so easygoing, I thought it was over easy for sure," he commented. "You earned your breakfast last night." "That was a wonderful piece of driving you did," Duncan complimented. "It sure didn't feel wonderful to me." I barely kept from freaking out, I answered, slightly embarrassed. "Maybe when the guns were out you were scared, but not just driving. Hell, I think you were even smiling for a little while." "Okay, I admit I like driving fast. The whole kidnapping and gunplay thing still scares the crap out of me." Bax and I agreed that you'd make one hell of a wheelman, woman. "Speaking of Bax, where is the big guy?" "Oh, he's out by the lake doing his feng shui thing," answered Max. "Feng shui? Do you mean Tai Chi?" I asked. "Oh yeah, that's it. Why don't you go get him? Breakfast is almost ready." "Sure, I'd love to see someone that big doing Tai Chi," I said as I walked toward the door. "Just don't watch for too long or breakfast will get cold," Katie smirked. I wondered what she meant as I made my way down a stone path toward a glass-smooth lake. The view was amazing. The lake was surrounded by a small forest worth of pine trees and flanked by a short gray rock cliff. It was a scene straight out of a postcard. Bax was standing on a large boulder sitting in the water a few feet from the shore. He made an impressive sight. At 7 feet tall, Bax is hardly a man to miss. Add in the body of a Greek god, then cover with multi-hued tattoos, and you get an amazing sight. The effect was enhanced by his remarkably fluid and graceful movement. There was no hint of the ungainliness that a lot of men his size have. It was as if gravity had little effect on him. I thought that he must have girls lined up around the block trying to get a look at him. He could probably have a different one every night if he wanted. I also had the feeling that he wasn't that type of guy. He gave me the sense that he was like a medieval knight, that to him, chivalry was not dead. Combine those feelings with his intelligence, compassion, and loyalty made me wonder if he was married or at least had a girlfriend. If he did, that would be one lucky girl. "How long are you going to stand there?" he asked. I have no idea how he knew I was there. He never looked, and like I said before, I moved very quietly. "Sorry, I came to tell you breakfast was almost ready," I stammered. How long had I been watching? 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes. I didn't know. That is amazing stuff. You should try it then. I bet you'll like it. He motioned for me to join him. Me? No, I'm nowhere near that graceful. I'd feel like a hippo on roller skates next to you. I doubt that. Come on, come up here, he smiled, offering me his hand. No, really, breakfast is probably getting cold anyway. We should get back. Breakfast can wait. If we wait until after breakfast, you'll miss out on this beautiful morning. Honestly, I'm a bit stiff and sore from the last few days. I don't think I can get up there. Now, we both know you're lying. You are perfectly capable of getting up here. Now get up here before I have to jump down and get you myself, he grinned. Hey, I am a little stiff, and I'd like to see you jump down here and catch me. I didn't think he was serious about jumping down. I figured he was just bluffing, trying to goad me into climbing up. I thought I'd give him a little bravado of my own. In retrospect, that may have been a small miscalculation on my part. The words had barely escaped my mouth before he was on the ground a few feet from me. I did manage to evade him for about a minute before I was carried to the top of the boulder. We were both laughing hysterically at our behavior. It was a bit childish but fun. As a guy, I was rather disheartened to be caught so easily. I did have some small amount of ego I was trying to protect. Bax made it look all too easy. The female side of me did, however, find it exhilarating to be chased. That was another new thing for me. I would have needed a few minutes to process it if I would have thought about it at the time. Fortunately, Bax had my attention and wasn't going to let it go easily. He spent the next hour teaching me what he called movements. He had me repeat each one until I had it perfectly before he'd move on to the next. I was really enjoying our lesson when he stopped us. That's enough for today. How are you feeling now? He asked. Great, really. All the soreness that I had is gone. I feel really energized, I guess, I answered. I told you you'd like it, he smiled. God, he has a great smile, I thought. Whoa, where did that come from? Did I just think that? Come on, let's go get something to eat, he said as he gathered up his stuff. My mind was spinning from the last few thoughts that ran through my head, so I just nodded and followed him. I wasn't sure I wanted to know why I had thought what I did. I didn't want to admit the effect he was having on me. I followed in silence as he led us back toward the house. I again wondered if he had a girlfriend. Then I hoped that he did not. Geez, stress can do some strange things to your mind. That's at least what I told myself at the time. It's about time you two got back here. We were about to send out a search party to find you, Max joked. What can I say, Max, you just can't waste a beautiful morning like this, replied Bax. Katie was grinning at me with that I told you so look. Thankfully, she remained silent. I had a feeling I'd be hearing about it later. Bax and I ate a cold breakfast, but neither of us complained. We started talking more about cars and other machines. Then the conversation moved to movies and music, books, then on to more serious subjects like endangered animals and human behavior. It was quite an eclectic conversation. I enjoyed it immensely. We had just finished eating when Duncan called Bax into another room. I decided to get started on the mess we had made since arriving last night. It wasn't much, but I could at least help out a little. I was about halfway through when Katie came back to the kitchen. You're going to make a wonderful wife someday, she joked. Marrying me off already, are you? I thought we had something special. I replied with a fake tear. You know I'll always love you, sweetie. I'm just not the right kind of girl for you, she said, then walked over and gave me a deep kiss. I was stunned for a second, then we both started laughing hysterically. Gabby, you are way too cute, Katie gasped between laughing fits. You're not a bad kisser either. That's why it's so hard to break up with you like this. Break up? But why? Don't you love me? I continued our gag. It's not me, love, there's someone else who's come between us, she said melodramatically. No, no one could come between us. Who is it that has you looking away from me? I mirrored her melodrama. I admit the cheese factor was getting pretty high at that point. It's not me, baby, it's you. I see the way you look at Bax. You never look at me that way. I know you want him. She barely ducked the wet soapy sponge I threw at her. Damn it, woman, did you just come in here to give me a hard time? I asked. No, not just to give you a hard time. You're just such an easy target. That time I hit her with the wet dish towel I had been using to dry off the dishes. I do have some bad news. It looks like we're gonna have to wait a day or two to meet with Agent Kent. It seems he was called to Washington for an emergency meeting. He should be back tomorrow or the next day. Looks like we have some time to kill, she stated. Any idea why he was called away? I asked. Our conversation had gotten kicked back into serious. He didn't say, but I wouldn't be surprised if Jensen didn't call in a favor to delay him until we can be found. I was afraid of that. What's the chances of Jensen finding us here? He'll probably find this place by tonight, but we aren't going to be here. We're not? Now where are we off to? I questioned. I think we're gonna keep moving for the next few days. We'll be harder to track that way. Duncan has gone to take care of our finances. Max is off to see what the word on the street is. Bax is going to stay with you. We'll meet in a couple hours and decide where we want to go. Where are you going to be? Me, I'm going to provide a little misdirection and some cover. I'd ask how, but I really don't want to know, I shrugged. Good, because I wouldn't tell you anyway. A nice girl like you doesn't need to hear about bad girls like me, Katie grinned. Now go and put your face on and show Bax how beautiful you can be. Why would I want to show Bax that? You don't? Wasn't I right about you being late for breakfast? Oh well, my mistake. We need Gabby anyway. Now go make yourself beautiful. Alrighty, then. You be careful. I don't want to be left alone with these guys for long. I wanted to change the subject about Bax and me. Careful? What fun is that? She smiled. I was afraid you'd say that. Don't worry about me, girlie, but just in case, if I need help or need to get you information, I might use someone else to contact you. If someone does, they should tell you the pixie needs the griffin. Don't worry, though, I'd be more worried about you here with Bax. With that she left and I headed to our room to put my face on. My thoughts began to wander as I got myself made up. What is it with her? Nothing is going to happen between Bax and me. I admit he's a good-looking guy, really nice, and way smart, but I like girls, plain and simple. I had been working for a few minutes when I realized I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. I was staring at my hand holding a tube of lipstick. Damn, I'm not going to get this right if I don't pay attention. I returned my gaze to the mirror and was shocked by what I saw. Gabby was looking back at me. All that was left to finish her was the lipstick I had been holding. I looked at the clock and only half the time I was expecting to take had passed. The few times I had done it before had taken much longer and required a lot of concentration to get it right. This time it took half as long and I wasn't paying half the attention I should have been. I even looked as good if not better than I had before. I expected to get better the more times I did it. I even expected to get it done much faster. I just never thought it would happen so fast. I didn't know whether to be happy or stressed out by it. Fortunately, Bax saved me from myself again, before it could be a problem. "Hey, Gabby, feel up to going for a ride?" he asked from down the hall. "Sure, where are we going?" "It's some beautiful country around here. After the last few days you've had, I thought you could use a little downtime to relax. I thought we'd take in some sights then stop for lunch. There's a great little Mexican place on the other side of the lake." "Sounds good to me." "I guess you're driving?" "We both are." "Which would you prefer, sport bike or cruiser?" "I don't know how to ride," I answered. "We'll have to remedy that. How about we take the Jeep around the lake and then switch to bikes on the way back? I've got a friend who owns a dealership near the restaurant. He owes me a favor, so I bet I can get a couple bikes for the day." "Sound good to you?" he asked. "Fine by me, but I think you've got your work cut out for you," I answered. "Good, let's go then." The drive up to the restaurant was wonderful. Bax was right about the countryside, it was beautiful. We stopped a few times to walk some of the trails in the area. As good as the scenery was, the conversation was better. The more I got to know Bax, the better I liked him. He had a funny way of looking at things that I never would have thought of. We talked for a long time on subjects we agreed on and even longer on the subjects we didn't. They were wonderful discussions that never got close to arguments. He was the type of guy who didn't need to be right all the time. He seemed to understand that people have a right to their own opinion even if it doesn't match his own. Somehow we started talking about movies again. "It's a sad state when the biggest action hero is The Rock," Bax stated bemusedly. "Granted, he's no Arnold or Sly, but he is better than Vin Diesel," I commented. "That's true. Vin was good in Pitch Black though," Bax stated. "I guess. His other movies were awful though." "True, it was a bit ridiculous when he did the wheel stand burnout at the end of Fast and Furious. Oh God, don't remind me. The sequel to that was bad, too. Other than those two, can you think of any other big bad action guy?" Bax continued. How about Will Smith in Bad Boys?" "I guess. It was mostly shootouts, car chases, and explosions in that one though. I was thinking more along the lines of a real physical, toss a guy out the window kind of action. There's just not much of that anymore. There's no good young blood. I'm afraid we might be losing the genre to CGI, bigger explosions, and that physics-defying Hong Kong wire stuff." "Easy there, Grandpa. Next thing you'll be talking about is kids these days," I razzied him. We both laughed at the ridiculousness of the conversation. The conversation changed as we went along. Before long, Bax was telling me about some of his own adventures. He was a great storyteller. He told me of some of the misadventures he and the others of our group had managed to get themselves in. It was amazing they were all still around to tell the tale. What other people would consider life-threatening he seemed to view as merely a little challenge. All throughout his story he managed to interject as much humor as humanly possible, and I laughed so hard I had tears in my eyes. We arrived at the restaurant in what seemed to be minutes, but in reality it was 3.5 hours later. Manny's was a small mom and pop affair rich with character. You could just imagine that it was transported there straight from Mexico. The air was filled with those delicious aromas that the large chain stores could only dream about. We arrived between busy periods and were seated immediately. Our waiter arrived a few seconds later bringing a couple glasses of ice water and our menus. He greeted Bax with a big smile and introduced himself as Angel. "Good afternoon, Bax, and who have you brought in here?" he asked. "No, wait, she must be your sister. She's way too beautiful to willingly be seen in public with you. Bax gave a chuckle. Very funny, Angel, this is Gabby. She's a special friend, so you behave yourself. Behave myself? I'll try, but I sometimes lose control of myself when a pretty lady is nearby. Your usual? Absolutely, it's been almost a month since I had any, Bax answered. Chicken enchiladas, 3 beef tacos, and a side of beans and rice. Anything else? Yes, a bottle of Corona, please. No problem, and for the lady, he directed the question at me. Any recommendations? I asked in my best feminine voice. Eating healthy or being naughty like our big friend here? You only live once, I feel like being a little naughty. Excellent, then I definitely recommend the enchiladas. Okay, sounds like a winner to me. I'll take the enchiladas, but I believe I'm going to skip the tacos and beans. Chicken enchiladas it is. Corona for you as well? No thanks, I think I should keep a clear head with Bax around, I joked. He leaned in close to me and said, You don't need to worry, Bax is a complete gentleman and he must think highly of you if he brought you in here. He left to take our orders to the kitchen. I was left wondering what he meant. I decided to investigate a little further. This is a great place, I bet everyone just loves it. I commented. I don't know, you're the first person that I've brought here. I kind of consider this my personal hideout. It's the place I go when I'm looking to get away from everyone. I don't think that any of the other guys even know it's here. I bet you've at least brought a girlfriend or two. I can't be the only person you've brought here. Okay, I admit it, my curiosity over the question of him having someone had gotten the best of me. No, I honestly haven't. I'm sure I'll bring a wife here someday. That is if I ever find a girl that doesn't drive me nuts. Well, don't I feel special now? You are special. It's amazing that you have adapted so quickly to a difficult circumstance. I've really enjoyed today. It's been a long time since I've had such interesting conversations. It's refreshing to have someone disagree with me sometimes. Most of the girls I date seem to have no opinions of their own. It's like they think they have to believe everything I believe. That's really annoying. When did it become bad to have your own opinion? Don't ask me. I can't figure it out. What annoys me is women who want you to take care of them. The few girls I've dated have been nearly helpless. I keep wondering if they're adults or children. Don't even get me started there. I agree wholeheartedly. It's not that I want someone to take care of me. I just don't want to have to take care of someone else all the time. I know all girls aren't that way. I seem to attract them, though. Our meals arrived and we continued our conversation. The food was excellent. It was made even better by the company. I could have happily stayed there for the rest of my life. It was one of those moments that we have far too few of in life. Those moments when you forget about your troubles and just for a little while everything is wonderful. I don't know if you'd call it love, but it was there in that little restaurant over that delicious meal I started to care very deeply for Bax. It was over all too soon. Bax paid for our meal as I took a much-needed bathroom break. I had finished touching up my makeup when I saw something that hadn't been there nearly enough before. I saw a real genuine smile. I was happy to be me. I was happy to be alive. I was a million miles from the person I had once been. I've said before that stress does some strange things, but oddly enough, I had never before felt so at ease with myself. I knew then that Griffin was gone. Gabby was going to be staying for a long time. I silently thanked Griffin for taking care of me for so long, but it was time to be me. I didn't need him anymore. I pulled myself together and wiped the tear from my eye. I touched up my makeup again and turned to face the rest of my life feeling better than I ever had before. Bax was waiting for me as I returned to our table. He had been talking and laughing with a young lady who had come over to the table. They were talking in Spanish, so I didn't have a clue what was being said. He speaks Spanish, too. Geez, what other surprises is he hiding, I thought to myself. He said something as I approached, and the young lady turned and smiled at me. "Hello, Gabby. Enjoyed your meal?" she asked. "Yes, very much so. It was incredible. Thank you very much for the compliment. I love it when people like our food. I'm Maria. I help my father keep this place running. Bax was just telling me a little about you." "Oh geez, Bax, why did you have to go and bore her?" I asked. "Sorry, she was just curious as to who you are." I had to tell her something or the rumors would start flying around, and the next thing you know we'd be engaged or married or something. "It's my turn to use the bathroom. Maria, would you mind keeping Gabby company for a few minutes?" "Not at all. I'd love to talk with her for a few minutes," Maria answered. "Thanks, I'll only be a minute." With that, he left. He was barely out of earshot when Maria said, "Girl, he's got it bad for you." "Oh, he does not." "There's no way," I stammered, caught off guard. "Yes, he does. He just hasn't admitted it to himself yet." "How can you be sure?" I asked. "First of all, he brought you here. This has been his private place for a long time now. He never brings anyone with him. I've asked him to bring Max, Duncan, and Katie a million times, but he never has. He always says that this place wouldn't be just his if he brought them. You must be something for him to finally decide to let you into his world. Secondly, he did nothing but gush about you the whole time you were in the bathroom. I've known him for years. I've never heard him talk about anyone that way. Don't get me wrong, he talks highly of the other three, but with you it's different. It's about how much he likes talking and being with you. How different you are from other people and how beautiful you are. I think he holds an overly inflated view of me. I'm nowhere as great as he says, and I'm nowhere near beautiful. I'll admit you aren't the type I thought he'd end up with. I figured he'd settle for some blonde bimbo eventually. That I'm glad of, and don't think that you aren't beautiful. There is something about you that really goes well with him. It must be contagious. Now you've caught it." Maria laughed at that. I'm surprised myself. I never thought that I'd ever think anyone was good enough for Baxton. 2 years ago, 3 men tried to rob this place. One of them had a gun, one was clearing out the cash register, and the third had a knife to my throat and was using me as a shield. I thought I was going to die. A few seconds later, all 3 men were unconscious and Bax was holding me in his arms safe and sound without a scratch. He, however, had gotten stabbed during the fight. The man with the knife had tried to stab me, but Bax slid between us at the last second. I owe him my life. Since then, I have told him that I'll only let him get involved with someone who will be good for him. Until now, he has never told me about anyone who would come close to being good for him. But you're different. I think you'll be good for him. I know he can be good for you. Don't dismiss the 2 of you before thinking about it. Maria, Bax is the most amazing man I have ever met. He's smart, funny, gorgeous, and the sweetest person I have ever had the pleasure of meeting. He's everything a woman could want. I can't explain the way he makes me feel. I have never known anything like it. I'm not even sure I know what it means. But we can't possibly get together. He knows that. I'm not anywhere close to the woman he should be with. He deserves so much more than I could ever give him. It's just not meant for us to be. Gabby, you should give yourself more credit. I'm not saying that you have to get together. I'm just saying you shouldn't dismiss the idea. You care for him very deeply. Maybe even more than you will admit to yourself. You may not be ready yet, but someday you will be. Don't end something before it has a chance. Give it a chance to grow and you may be surprised at the fruits it produces. There is something between you two that neither of you wants to admit is there. Bax returned before I could say anything in return. She asked him something in Spanish. He looked at me a moment, then answered her. She looked at me and shook her head. We said our goodbyes, then went back to the Jeep. Bax said something to me, but unfortunately, my brain decided to take a break and all I could do was stare at him. He smiled again and that smile melted me. Why does he affect me so? Is it possible that I like him more than I'm willing to admit? Damn it, this is getting complicated. Hey, Earth to Gabby, come in Gabby. He said, trying to get my attention. You okay? Yeah, sorry, I was just daydreaming. I answered. I noticed. Everything okay? He asked. Yeah, this is just so surreal. I could only imagine. If it helps, you're doing a great job. Maria had no idea you were a guy. I doubt that. She seemed too perceptive to miss something like that. She is perceptive. She knew there was something different about you but couldn't quite put her finger on it. She still didn't quite believe me when I told her. So that's what the two of you were talking about. I was wondering why you two kept looking at me. Don't worry, she won't tell anyone. I trust her completely. That's good enough for me. Are you sure you want to turn me loose on a motorcycle? That could prove to be a dangerous thing, I joked. Danger? I laugh in the face of danger, ha, 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 he returned. I'd believe that with you. Here we are. You ready for this? He asked as we arrived at a small motorcycle shop. As ready as I'll ever be, was all I could say. Boy, I was saying that a lot. I wish I could say that the shop was exactly what I expected, but it wasn't, of course. I began to realize I had lived a very limited life. I really should have gotten out more. Oh well, we live and learn. Anyway, even though the shop was small, it was well stocked with a variety of bikes. There was everything from Harleys to Hondas, all arranged neatly on squeaky clean mirror-polished floor. Intermixed with the latest techno rockets were a few vintage race bikes. The walls were covered in all sorts of motorcycle racing memorabilia. I felt like I was walking through a museum dedicated solely to motorcycles. Bax went to find his friend while I was left to wander around the shop on my own. The bikes were all beautiful. I'd never really taken the time to look at them before. I always looked at a motorcycle and saw two wheels, a seat, and an engine. As I made my way down the aisles, I began to take in the defining characteristics of each type of bike. The sport bikes had their sexy swoopy bodywork and huge engines. Cruisers were marked by lots of chrome and were low to the ground. Then there were the touring bikes. With heating and air conditioning, radios, and a big comfy seat, they had all the comforts of our four-wheeled cars and trucks. I was drawn to the naked sport bikes. The exposed frames and engines gave them a no-frills all-business look and feel. It was then I began to wonder what kind of bike Bax would put me on. To be honest, I felt more than a little intimidated by the sport bikes. Just their reputation alone was scary enough. I viewed them as a bike for those with experience. The touring bikes didn't hold much appeal either. I thought if I wanted air conditioning and a radio, I'd just drive my car. The cruisers came to mind next. I sat on a few and realized that those things are big and heavy. They weren't exactly the quick and nimble machines I had in mind. That left me with the nakeds. Not as comfy, fast, or stylish as some of the others, but they matched up well with what I thought a motorcycle should be. I'm sure those of you that ride bikes on a regular basis will disagree with my assessments, but I'm only saying what I felt was right for me. I had just finished my internal musings when Bax reappeared with his friend. "Find anything you like, Gabs?" asked Bax. "Yes, actually, I like the Suzuki SV650, I answered, reading it off the side of a beautiful blue bike I was looking at. "That's a good choice. Not too powerful but should be fun enough. This is Joe. He'll be getting us all set up," Bax introduced his friend. "Hi, Joe. I'm Gabby. I hope we're not keeping you from anything important." "There's only one thing more important than helping a friend, and that's helping a pretty young girl," Joe answered. "Besides, this place is a tomb today. I'd just be spending the afternoon working on one of my project bikes. They'll cost me more than I'll ever make on M, but if I'm not working on something, I usually get myself in trouble. Idle hands? The worst, so let's get you sorted out. You're going to need a helmet, jacket, and boots at least." He led us to a helmet display. After trying various styles and sizes, I settled on a very comfortable full-face helmet with graphics that matched the Suzuki I was going to ride. A jacket fitting came next. I was a little worried about finding a woman's jacket with sleeves long enough for me. My fears were unfounded as Joe had me fitted with an all-black one that seemed tailor-made with me in mind. "If you like that jacket, I have one coming in a few days that will match the Suzuki pretty well," Joe offered. "Let's see if I survive today before we make any plans," I answered a little nervously. "Don't you worry. We'll get you up and running in no time. I have a feeling you'll take to it like a duck to water." "You'll be fine, Gabby. Joe here is one of the best teachers around," Bax added. "I think I'll need all the help I can get." "So what's next?" I asked. "Looks like all you need now is a decent pair of boots," Joe responded. "I'm all yours." Joe took a few measurements and left to retrieve a pair he thought I might like. "What about you, Bax? Aren't you getting anything?" I asked. "Nah, I've got my gear in the Jeep. Besides, I doubt Joe would have anything big enough for me. I have most of my stuff specially made. Speaking of which, I might as well get suited up myself." With that, he left. A few seconds later, Joe returned with a beautiful pair that fit really well. "Joe, you're amazing. I'm a big girl and I didn't think you'd be able to fit me so well so quickly." "You're lucky actually. I had a girl that's pretty close to your size that used to get her gear here. She's a racer and is pretty good. She got a factory ride about a year ago and they take care of all her gear now. I just had these left over from her last order." "Lucky me then." "So what bike does Bax ride?" "He's so big I bet he looks funny on just about anything." "On most bikes he does. I've got a Hayabusa that should fit him pretty well." "A Hiawatsit?" "Sorry, I forget you're a newbie. It's a big fast sport bike. That copper-colored one over there," Joe pointed over his shoulder. "The one with the beak?" "Yeah, that's the one," he chuckled. "Now that we have you dressed, how about we get you on a bike?" "I'm ready if you are." All right, let's get started. I'm going to go grab the keys for both bikes. Why don't you go ahead and roll the SV out those double doors and I'll meet you outside. Aye, Captain, I responded with a cheesy salute. He went to get the keys and I was left to move my bike on my own. For once, something turned out exactly how I thought it would. Pushing a motorcycle around isn't the easiest thing in the world. I did manage to get it outside without causing any more damage than knocking a mirror out of alignment. Joe joined me a few minutes later. I'm gonna start with the very basics. He motioned for me to sit on the bike. We'll need to get things adjusted to fit you. I'll explain as we go. First up is the front brake. That's your right hand lever. You'll only need to use 2 fingers to get the full stopping power. Joe went to work getting things adjusted just right for me and explaining what each of the controls did and how to use them. He had me all sorted out and ready to ride about 10 minutes later. Bax had finished getting ready and was wheeling the big Hayabusa out just as we were getting finished. He had added some sort of bag around the tank. I was about to ask him about it when Joe derailed my train of thought. It's about time you got out here. It didn't take us that long to get Gabby suited up and ready to go, he teased. What are you trying to do, look prettier than her? If you are, you can forget it, she's way too cute. Joe was right, Bax did look good, really good. In his leather jacket and sunglasses, he definitely had the bad boy look working for him. Yeah, was all that Bax said. He had a worried look on his face. Is everything okay, big guy? I asked. Katie hasn't checked in yet. That's not too unusual, but I would feel better if I heard from her. Should we be worried? No, not yet. She's probably just trying to worry me, he answered with grin. That sounds about right for Katie. I think she likes to scare the crap out of everyone, Joe commented. Okay, but I'm gonna grab my phone just in case, I said as Bax fired up his bike. I retrieved my phone from the Jeep, set it on vibrate and dropped it in the inside pocket of my jacket. I got back to the guys just in time to hear Joe chewing on Bax for revving a cold engine. Damn it, Bax, let the machine warm up a bit and get some oil circulating before you do that. The engine will last longer if you'd quit tearing it up. Sorry, Joe, I just love the sound this thing makes, Bax replied sheepishly. Bax, are you getting yourself in trouble again? You naughty boy, shame on you, I teased. Gabby, what do you see in the big oaf? Joe asked me. I was feeling a little saucy and couldn't help myself. Well, he's not much to look at, but he's great in bed. Gabby! Bax exclaimed as he turned a shade of red I didn't think a human was capable of. Just kidding, Joe, we're just friends, I corrected laughing. Joe was laughing so hard at Bax's reaction that he was turning a similar shade of red. He was able to get control of himself and continue on with our lesson. Gabby dear, we are going to get along just fine, he grinned. After the bike was warmed up he had me practice getting the bike rolling from a stop. I then moved on to making slow circles in the parking lot while Joe gave me tips and encouragement. He then moved me on to figure eights. Bax was right about Joe being an excellent teacher. He had me feeling confident and comfortable in less than an hour. I pulled up next to Bax and shut the engine off. I think she's ready for the road, Joe smiled at Bax. I don't think she'd have any problems. Me either. Thanks for the help, care to come with us? Bax asked. I'd love to, but there's no one to watch the store. Besides, there's an old Vincent in the back that's calling my name. Suit yourself, I didn't want to share Gabby anyway. You two have fun and try not to abuse my bike too much. Now how can I have fun if I don't abuse your bike? Bax said with a devilish grin. Why do I get the feeling I'm gonna regret giving you that bike? I dunno, maybe you're just paranoid. Before Joe could say anything, Bax wheelied out of the parking lot. Show off, he yelled after Bax. You better get moving, Gabby. Maybe he'll behave himself with you. Thanks, Joe, you've been wonderful. I would never have been this comfortable on this thing without you, I told him. You're a sweet girl. No, get the heck out of here. I thought I'd have to ride a lot harder to catch up to Bax, but he had stopped less than a block away to let me catch up. I was grateful for that. I wasn't quite up for a mad dash through unknown streets. I parked next to Bax and his cat ate the canary grin. Are you going to behave now? I asked. Yeah, I just love to give Joe a hard time. He knows I'll take care of his bike. I just like to plant a little seed of doubt in that mind of his. Isn't that a little bit mean-spirited? Yeah, probably, but he should be used to it by now. Let's go for that ride. You lead and I'll follow, I smiled. He gave me one of those smiles that just seems to melt me and strapped his helmet back on. I promised to keep a nice serene pace. There's a little convenience store about an hour up the road. We'll stop there for a rest. He eased away from the curb as I followed him. True to his word, he kept the pace nice and steady, not too fast. We cruised through some more beautiful forest. I was enjoying the scenery and the feel of the wind around me. We crossed numerous streams and rivers, then across a large lake. It seemed like no time at all when we reached our stopping point. That was fantastic, I said as we removed out helmets. You doubted me? No, that was just better than the ride up to the restaurant. Yeah, there are some other roads that I'd love to take you on, but there's no signal for cell phones out there. We need to be able to stay in contact with the others just in case. Almost in answer to his comment, my phone began to buzz. I checked the number and it was Katie. It's Katie, I told Bax and answered the call. Well, it's about time you decided to call. We were beginning to worry. You should be worried, Gabby. Katie needs your help, replied an unknown voice. Who is this? And how do you know me? I questioned as I motioned for Bax. He gave me a strange look but said nothing. You may call me Guardian. I don't know you, but Katie does. She told me that the pixie needs the griffin. That was Katie's code, and I remembered her saying something about someone called Guardian on the inside of Infinicorp. What's happened to Katie? She was spotted earlier today and Jensen sent his men after her. I managed to help her escape them, but only barely. They will find her soon. I'm doing all I can to delay them, but you haven't much time. Where is she? Exactly where, I don't know. She merely said the beginning, with that he hung up and I was left with an empty line. I hit the end button. What's up? Asked Bax. Katie's in trouble. We've got to go. Whoa, slow down, what happened? Asked Bax. I repeated the conversation for Bax. He listened but didn't react immediately. Come on, let's go, I pleaded. Go where? The beginning is a little vague. It could mean Infinicorp or Defense Tech or anywhere. She told me the beginning. It has to be where I got started in this mess. She has to be at my office building. That's good enough for me. Hang on, I have to let the others know. He grabbed my phone and dialed Duncan. Duncan, sounds like Katie's got herself in trouble. We just got a call from the mysterious Guardian. Is the call reliable? Asked Duncan. Very. He called Gabby's phone. Katie's the only one who has that number besides us. He also gave Gabby Katie's code. It's about as reliable as it's gonna get. I knew we should have kept an eye on that girl. Do you know where she is? It was a bit cryptic, but we think it's Gabby's building. We're on our way there, now. We'll let you know if we hear anything else. Bax hit the end button and tossed the phone back to me. He stripped off his jacket and told me to remove mine. As I pulled my jacket off, he opened the bag that was on his bike and handed me a small bundle. It took me a minute to figure out it was a gun and holster. Bax had expertly slipped his on and was checking his gun. With everything in order, he pulled his jacket back on and added a few extra magazines to his pockets. He had all that done before I was able to undo the bundle he'd given me. Bax, I don't know how to, I said, showing him the bundle. It's okay, Gabs, I'll help, he smiled at me. Oh, that smile. He had me similarly outfitted a few minutes later. I wasn't feeling too comfortable about carrying a gun. I didn't even know how to use one. Bax must have sensed my unease. He took me by the shoulders and looked directly into my eyes. I couldn't meet his gaze. Those eyes were so powerful. Gabby, look at me. I raised my eyes to meet his. Good. Now take a deep breath. I took a deep breath. Good. Now, again. I drew in another deep breath. Then he kissed me. Not just a little peck, but a full-on passionate kiss that stole my breath and made my legs turn into rubber. I almost fell, but Bax held me up. He gently leaned me back against my bike, while my severely overloaded short-circuiting brain was slowly trying to reboot. Sorry, I don't know why I did that, he stammered. I was all my brain could muster. Look, we don't have time for this right now. Katie needs help. There's a very dangerous situation ahead. The gun is just in case you need it. I want you to go back to the Jeep. There's an envelope with some cash in it under the driver's seat along with the keys. Take them and get the hell away from here. Just drive. Go as far as you can, then disappear and start a new life. You don't need to get involved any deeper than you already are. That got my brain running again. Involved any deeper? I'm already deeply involved, Bax. If the only way for me to not be involved is to run away and leave the few people I can call friends behind, then I want to be as deeply involved as possible. Katie's in trouble and I want to help. Gabby, this is dangerous. There is a good chance that you could get hurt or worse. Don't you go and get all macho on me now. I can take care of myself and I think I have proven that. You can't take on Jensen all by yourself. Katie needs our help and we're going to help her. I thought you'd say something like that. Any clue how to use that? He asked, pointing at the gun. Not even the slightest, I admitted. This is a Glock 19C. It's light, easy to handle, and has a decent punch, he explained, then gave me a quick crash course in its use. Hopefully, you won't be needing it, but better to be prepared. You're riding with me. That little SV won't be able to keep up. Take this, too. He handed me a small stick-looking piece of plastic with a loop on one end. What's this for? I asked, giving Bax a quizzical look. It's a communicator. The loop goes over your ear and the microphone is at the end of the stock, he answered, putting on an identical item. This way we can keep in touch. As long as we're within 2 miles of each other, that is. The others have one also. Hopefully, Katie is listening for us and we'll be able to get some info and not run in there blind. Do you always carry around all this cloak and dagger gear? Not usually, but we thought Katie might get herself into trouble. She was supposed to cause a distraction then disappear and meet up with us tonight. She doesn't always do what she's supposed to. Any idea why she's back at your building? Only one. Did she ever say where she was hiding the disc? She didn't tell me, Bax answered. I waited for a few seconds while the gears in his head were turning. I could tell when things clicked into place. She wouldn't go after the disc herself. That would be suicidal. I don't know her that well. Does that seem like something she'd do? She might. Jensen has her off balance and she doesn't like that. It's a sense of pride with her. That by itself wouldn't cause her to go in by herself. She knows it's getting very serious. I think you getting involved may have pushed her over the edge. She doesn't want to be responsible for anyone getting hurt. She's going to get hurt if we don't get to her soon. Bax pulled on his helmet and brought the engine to life. I pulled on my helmet and settled in behind him. He looked at me and said to hold on tight. I didn't really need the advice. I had a feeling it was going to be one wild ride. I wrapped my arms around his waist as he clicked the bike into gear. The engine sound started off as a low guttural growl then morphed into a banshee-like wail as he climbed through the gears. I couldn't see the speedometer, but I know we were going fast. Telephone poles were rushing past us like fence pickets while the big copper bike picked up more speed. How far are we away from her? I asked. About 60 miles. We're going to have to move to get to her in time. I'm going to get very quiet for a while. I'm not being rude, but I have to concentrate on what I'm doing. I tend to zone out and not hear much of anything. If you need my attention, just slap my helmet a few times, Bax informed me. As fast as we're going, I'd just as soon have you shut up and concentrate on what you're doing, I replied. I assumed he'd gone into his zone out because he didn't say anything in return. I tightened my grip on him and tried my best to stay seated. Bax was pushing the bike hard and flipping left and right through the tight curves. He really seemed to know what he was doing. After riding the little Suzuki, I knew how much effort it took to lean a bike back and forth. The Hayabusa was a bigger bike with a bigger rider and an extra passenger. He was still making it look all too easy for him. At the hyper-legal speed we were traveling, it was still going to take almost 30 minutes to reach Katie. I didn't want to think about what was waiting ahead of me. All that would do was scare me. I was left to the voice in my head. It wasn't saying anything I wanted to think about at the time. You're going to have to sort out your feelings about that kiss, said the little voice. Not now, I'm worried about Katie, I answered. We can't do anything for her now. There's time before we get to her. I don't want to think about it right now. You don't want to think about it because you liked it and you're afraid of what that means. I'm not afraid, I'm just confused. That's the first time I've been kissed by a guy. Yes, but it was very nice. Okay, it was nice, so what? Better than any other, the best, it stated. I wouldn't say it was the best. Yes, you would. Okay, it was one hell of a kiss. It's just the situation I'm in. I can't trust anything right now, especially my feelings. Suit yourself, but we both know that you want him to do it again. Oh, shut up, I must have said it out loud because Bax answered me. I didn't say anything, he stated. No, not you. Just the little voice in my head won't be quiet, I replied. Maybe you should listen. Sometimes that little voice is telling the truth. Maybe, I said. We both fell silent as we raced back to the city. Bax was really running the big bike hard. We crossed the 60 miles in just over 20 minutes. I saw 3 police cars make a weak attempt at chasing us, but they were no match for the Hayabusa. We were out of sight before they could even get their cars turned around. I was sure the bike would never be the same and that Joe wouldn't be happy if he knew what the bike went through. Bax slowed the bike as we got within 3 miles of the building. Start trying to raise Katie. She should be listening for us. Katie, this is Gabby, can you hear me? We're coming, I sent out the message. I kept repeating it every 20 seconds or so. She responded on the 3rd attempt. Gabby, I am so glad to hear your voice. I'm in need of a little help here. Who's with you? She sounded relieved. Just Bax at the moment. The other 2 are on their way. I'm not sure when they'll be here. Where are you? I'm in a restaurant just around the corner from our meeting spot. It's a place called Perennios. I know the place. What kind of trouble are we looking for? They've got a goon squad of about 12 guys keeping watch and another 2 wearing some sort of light-bending camouflage. They're hard as hell to see until they move. Then all you get is a mirage-like shimmer. They had another 3, but they all had serious accidents and couldn't continue, she answered devilishly. And you wouldn't have had anything to do with those accidents, would you? Well, maybe I helped a little. I could almost see her grinning about that. One more question, where's the disc at? Not much gets by you, does it? It's in the atrium on the 2nd floor behind the knight's visor. Do you have a plan for retrieving it? I've got an idea, if you're up for it, she asked. That all depends on what you have in mind, I answered hesitantly. After her last suggestion, I wasn't sure what I was getting myself into. What I have in mind is for you to walk right in there and get it. Have you lost your freaking mind, Katie? Bax interjected. There's no way I'm letting her walk in there by herself. She has no training for this sort of thing. Hell, up until a few nights ago I bet she thought things like this only happen in movies. Look, Bax, we don't have a choice. You and I are way too recognizable. They even have photos of us. She is more than able to take care of herself. She's more than proven that the last few days. I'll agree that she can take care of herself, but she'll be recognizable after last night. Not really, it seems that no one paid any attention to her until it was too late. The best description they could come up with is a tall chick with long red hair. That and a warning not to underestimate her. Bax, it looks like we don't have a choice. I'm not happy about going in there alone, but I want to end this thing. I've spent my whole life on the sidelines watching everyone else. It's my turn to get involved, I pleaded my case. Okay, this is a lot uglier than I'd like it to be. We're half blind and outnumbered. There aren't a lot options open for us. I don't like the idea of sending you in there alone either. Is there any way in, other than the front and back? There's an employee entrance. I can get in through the parking garage. Looks like this is where I get off then. They've probably hacked the security system. That will give them access to all the cameras in the building. Leave your helmet on when you go in. The less you give them to see, the better. Once you're in, get to the nearest bathroom. Cameras aren't allowed in public bathrooms. Dump the jacket and helmet. If you can, leave with another person or group. That should make you harder to spot and buy you some time. He got off and I slid forward and took control. I swallowed the lump in my throat and pulled away from the curb. To say I was nervous would have been a huge understatement. I made the turn onto the street that runs in front of the building. I was going to have to pass by it in order to get to the garage. I braced myself for the rain of bullets I was sure was coming. Not a single shot rang out. There wasn't even so much as a shout of recognition. Nothing. That just made me more nervous. Katie, exactly where are the two camouflaged baddies at? There's one on each end of the building. You're just about to pass the first. The second is in the old parking attendant shack. Okay, keep an eye on them. I'd hate for one to walk up behind me. I got you covered, sister. You'll be the first to know if they move. I felt a little better knowing I wasn't completely alone. I easily passed the first guard and then the second. I probably could have used the Hayabusa's speed and blasted past them, but I was trying to blend as well as I could. I made the turn into the garage without incident and cruised to the second floor. There are usually a few bikes parked in an area close to the employee entrance that is too small for most cars. That day was no different. Keeping in mind I might need to make a quick getaway, I backed the bike into a spot as close to the doors as possible. I thought about leaving the bike running but was afraid I would come back and the bike would be gone. I'm at the door. Any chance of talking about this plan some more over a nice hot cup of coffee? Sorry, sweetheart, you're committed now, Bax replied. Damn, I knew you were going to say that. I left my helmet on, walked to the doors, and punched in my employee number. The lock slid back with a soft click and I walked into the building. The building was laid out in my favor with the bathrooms near the entryway. I quickly made my way to them and stashed my jacket, helmet, and gun. Without the jacket, I had no way to conceal the gun. I figured the situation required more stealth than firepower anyway. A small group of girls entered just as I was about to finish. Keeping Bax's advice in mind, I slowly washed my hands and waited for them to finish. When they were finished, I followed them out. I had made it into the building and as far as I could tell no alarms had been sounded. My mind conjured up the sound of a ticking clock to remind me to get moving. There was no time to spare, so I quickly made my way to my destination. The atrium is a relatively busy part of the building. A lot of the employees from the various companies take breaks and eat lunch in there. I felt better being surrounded by a lot of people. I was counting on Jensen not wanting to try anything in front of so many witnesses. They probably knew I was in the building, they just didn't know where exactly. I quickly retrieved the disc from the suit of armor that adorned one of the benches. It was the only piece like it in the building and no one really knew why it was there. I just thought that it was there as someone's idea of a joke. A vague feeling of uneasiness crept into me. It took a second for me to figure out why. Everything had gone very easily. Nothing had jumped out at me. No one had tried to stop me. No alarms, flashing lights or yelling guards. Nothing. In the movies, that was the point where everything started going bad for the hero or, in my case, heroine. I seriously need to stop watching so many movies. I've got it. Any movement from the guards outside? I asked, still a little jumpy. Nothing yet. It's quiet out here still. I'm on my way out. Get moving. You're making me nervous, Katie urged. That brought to mind a saying my father used to say, "You're nervous?" I'm as jumpy as a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. We all started laughing. That released a lot of tension that had built up in us. I had gotten pretty wound up, again. I made my way back to the bathroom to pick up my gear. I'd have to agree with that, Gabby. The sooner you get out of there the sooner we can get out of here, Bax encouraged. I'm on my way. Where am I going after I get out of the building? Bax is here with me. Might as well get over here. Damn, the guards are moving. Something's up, Katie answered. Which way? Both. The garage side guard just went into the garage and the other is heading to the front door. That's not good. What's the likelihood they have someone coming in the back entrance as well? I asked even though I already knew the answer. I wouldn't be placing bets on getting out that way, responded Bax. That doesn't leave me with many options. How long will it take for you two to get over here? About 3 minutes, 2 if we hurry, Katie answered. Make it 2. The less time I'm in here the better. What do you have in mind? She asked. I'm gonna make my own exit. Wait for me at the northwest corner of the building. And don't be late. We'll be there. My brain had kicked into overdrive. I knew I only had a short amount of time. My exits were probably blocked and everyone in the game was more experienced than me. My odds didn't look good. I hoped that my idea was something they wouldn't expect. I retrieved my jacket, then turned around and headed back to the atrium. Why did I have to go and be a hero? I asked myself. My luck seemed to be holding. I made it back to the atrium without incident. It had taken me just under 2 minutes to get back there. Katie, what are you two driving? I asked. I hope you don't mind, but I picked up your Mustang on the way over here, she answered sheepishly. At this point, I don't really care, I said as I moved toward the window. I could see the dark blue Mustang coming down the road. It would be in position in less than half a minute. I started to think I might just make it out of there when the atrium doors flew open, striking the walls with a loud crash. I spun around as 2 blurry shimmering shapes glided through the opening. No one seemed to see the ghost come through the doors. They just resumed what they were doing. I threw myself behind one of the stone columns that decorated the room and drew my gun. I still wasn't at all comfortable with the weapon. I slid the safety off and readied the Glock for action. I really didn't want to shoot anyone. I wondered if the ghosts that drifted in would be using lethal force or not. The thought had no sooner passed through my head when the column was hit with multiple solid thuds. A few large chunks of stone hit the floor, confirming that these guys weren't interested in taking me alive. I never heard a sound other than the falling stone. Apparently neither did the people around us. No one made a move out of the ordinary. I knew I didn't stand a chance in a firefight with them. My only chance was escape, and I only had a few seconds to act. I fired 3 quick shots into the window, causing it to shatter. Unlike my enemy's weapons, the Glock wasn't fitted with a silencer. The panic following those 3 miniature explosions probably bought me a few more seconds. I took my chance and threw myself out the window onto a small awning, then rolled off it and fell about 10 feet to the ground, coming to a stop just as the passenger door to the Mustang opened. The landing was harder than I thought it would be. I knocked most of my breath out and gave myself a nasty bump on the head. I sprang to my feet and nearly dove into the waiting Ford. Katie didn't wait for me to pull the door shut. She stomped on the gas and the Mustang sprang forward as the first shots punched through the car's trunk. The rear window exploded, next followed by more hits on the trunk. Katie didn't let up on the accelerator and Bax began returning fire. More of Jensen's men came out of hiding and began targeting the Mustang. We were running through an extremely dangerous gauntlet. A bullet came ringing through Katie's door, across our laps and through my door. Bax had a similar experience, but we made it through without taking any hits ourselves. The car was a wreck, but it kept running and carried us out of harm's way. I actually had a chance to catch my breath. Where did you come up with that move? Bax asked. Jackie Chan movies. I will say it hurts a lot more than it looks like it does. I bet. Are you okay? Nothing that a few weeks in Maui won't fix. I hit my head pretty hard, but I'll survive, I joked, trying to ignore the gray fog closing in around me. So, Katie, can we please get this thing to our special agent now? I've had about all the excitement I can stand for one lifetime. He's waiting for us as we speak. Are you sure you've never done anything like this before? You're really good at this stuff, Katie stated. Thanks, I think. I guess I've watched too many action movies and read too many suspense novels, I responded. I'd like a list of all those books and movies. You've shown me some seriously sweet moves the last couple of days. Jensen and his men are pricks, but they're well-trained pricks. Making them look like fools isn't easy. You've managed to do it every time you've come up against them. I'm sure they're wondering just who the hell are you and where did you come from. I'm impressed and grateful that you're on my side, Bax complimented. This whole thing scares me. So far I've been very lucky. I'm not counting on that to last. You guys might live with this type of stuff every day. Hell, you seem to enjoy it. I don't know how much longer I can handle it. I've always wondered how I would react to stressful situations. Now I know, and I feel that I've exceeded my abilities and expectations by a large margin. Having you guys around has helped, and your advice has been invaluable. I'm done though. I just want this to be over. I don't want to be beat up, bruised, shot at, or chased anymore. I was wound up a lot more than I realized. I had managed to suppress my fears long enough to get the job done. I had been riding high on adrenaline, and now I was crashing. I started shaking and tears welled up in my eyes. I felt tired. Maybe more tired than I had ever been before in my life. My body hurt. I was beaten and bruised. I was stressed and I was scared. I broke down for the second time in as many days. I tried to relax and breathe deeply, but I just couldn't. I could hear Bax speaking calmly and softly. I concentrated on his voice. My shaking slowly began to subside. It became easier to breathe. A few minutes later, I was back in control of myself. Sorry, guys. I don't know why I can't seem to control myself lately. They were both looking at me with obvious concern. Gabby, don't worry about that at all. You've been under some serious pressure and had a lot thrown at you very quickly. I'd be more concerned if you didn't have any outbursts or meltdowns. What you're experiencing is normal. What you do need is some rest and a few hours without bullets or a car chase. We're going to get us out of the city and find a hotel and regroup. We need to get in touch with the others and let everyone know what's going on, Bax said, trying to get me to relax. We drove on for another hour or so. Katie and Bax were discussing strategy, so I just sort of tuned them out. I was watching the scenery go by and then passed out. I don't know how long I was asleep, but the next thing I remember was Bax carrying me to my hotel room. There was something about the ease at which he picked me up that made me feel that I was safe in his arms. I almost didn't want to be put down, but I was too sore and tired to argue. He laid me down in bed, pulled the covers over me. He mumbled something as I drifted back into dreamland. The next morning, I awoke with Katie sitting next to my bed reading a magazine. My head was pounding and I felt like I'd been run over by a bus. Morning, Katie. What's with the vigil? I asked. Good you're awake. We were worried about you. You must have hit your head when you Jackie Chan'd it out of the window. We were afraid that you managed to give yourself a mild concussion. You have taken quite a pounding the last few days. Girl, when you crash hard. Bax was afraid that something serious had happened. By the way, Bax told me he kissed you. How was it? That would explain why my head hurts, I answered. What? Because Bax kissed you? No, the hitting my head part. I honestly don't remember much of my landing. My head is pounding. Well, maybe the kiss had something to do with that too. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Did Bax have feelings for the original Gabby? They were like brother and sister. I don't think either one of them ever had romantic inclinations toward the other. Why? I was afraid that his feelings for her were affecting the way he felt about me. I doubt that very seriously. Gabby tended to be a little too hot-headed for him. She was very opinionated and tried to convince everyone to think the way she did. That's just not the type of person Bax wants to be with. How do you feel about him? I didn't think I liked guys at all, but every time he touches me, I get this wonderful tingly feeling inside. I don't know how else to describe it other than to say I like it. I love talking and just being with him. He just makes me feel safe when he's around. The last few days have been more fulfilling than any I've ever had. All I know is that I want more of it. I'm afraid I may have really done you some harm, Griffin, Katie said sadly. My name sounded so hollow to me. It was like it wasn't even my own. I didn't like hearing it. What do you mean? Please call me Gabby. Griffin is gone. That's one reason I think I've done you harm. Because of me, you've lost the life you used to have. That's not your fault, Katie. I was the one who chose to get involved. I still don't feel any better about it. Maybe if I wouldn't have totally turned your life upside down, I'd feel better about the whole thing. Katie, I know you feel responsible for my rather drastic change in lifestyle. We've been through that already. Even with all the bad that has happened, I don't think I'd want to change it if I could. There has been too much good that has come from it. I know who I am now. For the first time in my life, I feel like I belong in this world. I feel like I'm finally running up to speed instead of feeling like I'm moving in slow motion. I have met some really interesting people that I hope one day will consider me a friend. Then there's you and Bax. I have feelings for you that I can't really describe. I've never felt this way about any other girl before. Gabby, I'm not the right kind of girl for you. I'm too wild and free-spirited, she started. I held up my hand to stop her. It's not like that. I admit that I did have those types of feelings at one point. You are very beautiful and a lot of fun to be around, but I realize we are just too different to ever try the boyfriend/girlfriend thing. What I feel is different but, in some ways, stronger. Like sisters, she said quietly. Yes, that and best friends all rolled into one, I agreed. She smiled at that. I am so glad you feel that way. So do I. I really have grown to love you the last few days. You have this aura of calmness and comfort around you. The guys and I talked about it that first night. Max was amazed you weren't totally ranting and raving about the whole situation. Bax said it was like you're the eye of a hurricane. The world is complete chaos swirling around you and there you are in the center of it, calm, cool, and collected. Ha, calm, cool, and cracking more like it. Did you forget about my little meltdown in the jungle room and the car yesterday? Gabby, that was two very honest outbursts. How many seriously heavy situations have you been in the last few days? She asked. More than I'd like to have been. Exactly, and you managed those with remarkable composure. You may not think so, but we all have seen a lot of people put in similar situations that completely freeze. I remember my first really serious situation. If Bax wouldn't have been there, I wouldn't be here. I didn't quite freeze, but I was a complete wreck. I might have looked calm on the outside, but I was a quivering bowl of jello on the inside. Then you hid it very well. You have the respect of us all. You even impressed Duncan, and that is not easy. A few minutes ago you said that you hoped we'd consider you a friend. Sweetie, you don't have to worry. You have 4 new lifetime friends. If you ever need anything, just call us. We'll all be there. Okay, you're really embarrassing me now, I said as a tear rolled down my cheek. Katie was doing her best to keep from ruining her makeup as well. I haven't embarrassed you yet. I still want to know more about you and Bax, she grinned. I already told you I don't know. Okay, how did his kiss affect you? I thought about it for a minute then answered, it confused the hell out of me. Is that all? Katie asked, obviously sensing something more. No, that's not all. It was a really good kiss. My legs got all rubbery and I just about fell down. Yep, that's a really good kiss. When it happened, how did you feel? I told you already, it confused me. No, not after, the exact moment he kissed you. What was the first thought that went through your head? I stopped and tried to think back to the precise moment it happened. I hadn't really thought about it before she asked me. I was confused afterwards, but during was different. It was wonderful. I hate to admit it, but I was hoping he wouldn't stop, I answered. Okay, let me make sure I got everything. You two get along really well with each other. You have great conversations and basically enjoy each other's company. You find him interesting and he finds you intoxicating. His word, not mine. He makes you feel all sorts of good and tingly. You make him feel very comfortable. You have similar interests and thoughts on things, but not everything. You can disagree without fighting. Do you realize most people would be lucky to find even half those qualities in a relationship? He said I'm intoxicating, I said to myself. Katie has this ability to make me see the obvious stuff I would otherwise miss. When you put it like that, I'd be an idiot not to go running to him. Unfortunately, it's not that easy. I'm not really a girl, so how can Bax like me? Is he gay? No, he's not gay. He sees what we all see. We don't see Griffin, we see Gabby. Bax only sees you as Gabby. As far as he's concerned, you are a girl. That's crazy. Eventually, he's going to want more than conversation. I won't be able to give him what he'll want. That's true. Do you think you'll ever go back to being Griffin? No, I don't think I can. I feel like I've been freed and going back would be like returning to a cage. So you stay living as a woman. Maybe you even have surgery to make things more compatible. Then there wouldn't be any reason why not to have a full relationship as long as you want it. If you had been born a woman, would you find Bax attractive? Of course he's attractive. Hell, he's gorgeous and you know it. Do you find him attractive right now? I hesitated before I answered. I knew where Katie was going. She was right. I did find Bax very attractive. I wanted to be with him, but I was afraid of what that meant. I was afraid he wouldn't feel the same way. I was afraid he did feel the same. Half of me was telling me to go for it. The other half was telling me it was wrong. I didn't know what to do. Katie, you're right. I am attracted to Bax. Even the thought of sex with him isn't all that scary. A week ago, I would have told you there was no way in hell I'd ever think about that. So much has happened and so much has changed. I don't know what to do. What happens if I find out I really still prefer women? The last thing I want to do is hurt Bax. What happens if the novelty of me wears off and he decides he wants a real woman? This is so complex and so many things can go wrong. There was a knock on the door just as those words left my mouth. That's Bax, you two should talk, Katie said as she opened the door and Bax walked in. I thought I heard you too. How are you feeling, Gabby? He asked. Don't ask. The list of hurts is too long, I answered. Katie, could I have a few minutes with Gabby, please? He asked. Sure, no problem. Gabs, I left some stuff in the bathroom for you. There's a small package in there that might help that sore body of yours. Just run a nice hot bath and empty the package in as it's filling. One last thing, life is complex. Sometimes things don't turn out the way we hope they might and sometimes they do. The one thing you can't let yourself do is nothing. Never trying might be safe, but it's not living. There is no reward without some risk. I think you should take this risk, but ultimately, it's up to you, she answered and then left. What was that all about? Bax asked. Long story, I answered. He disappeared into the bathroom. I heard the water start running and a few minutes later he came out. Your bath awaits you, my queen, he said with a bow. Then turned around. It took me a few seconds to realize he was being a gentleman and not watching me get undressed. I got myself stiffly out of bed and undressed. Then I shuffled to the bath and climbed in. The water was warm, bubbly, and fragrant. It had a flowery scent mixed with a hint of salt and mint. I slid in up to my neck. It felt wonderful. The warm water was helping to get my blood flowing again. Bax knocked softly, mind if I come in? Oh, sorry Bax, my brain is a little slow this morning, please come in, I answered. He came in carrying a glass of water and some aspirin. You are an angel. Can I take you home with me? He gave me a half laugh at that. There was something in his eyes that said he had something important to say. What's up? I guess first things first. We met with Agent Kent last night. The disc turns out to more helpful than they thought it would be. It filled in a lot of gaps they had in the case against Jensen. Kent thinks the case is pretty much airtight at this point. They picked Jensen up early this morning. Great, does that mean it's over? For the most part, yes. We'll need to keep you and Katie hidden until after the trial. That may take a while. Jensen's attorneys will probably try everything to delay the trial. How does a Caribbean vacation sound to you? As long as I'm not being shot at, I'll go anywhere. Deal, I think we can put the guns away for a while. I could tell there was still something on his mind. I didn't know whether to say anything or not. He stood there for a few seconds staring at me with those piercing eyes of his. He moved to the edge of the tub and sat down next to me. You really are quite beautiful. You must have a funny definition of beauty, I retorted. I'm serious. You're not allowed to put yourself down anymore. There was something in his tone that told me to listen up. Sorry, I'm still learning how to take compliments. I'll probably be giving you a lot of them in the near future. It's strange, I know full well that you are a guy. But I just don't see it. What I see is a beautiful woman. That in itself isn't a problem. There have been a lot of beautiful women come and go in my life. None have made me feel the way I do about you. I know you're kind, gentle, and compassionate. You're as intelligent as anyone I've ever met. You have a way looking at things from a new angle that brings new life to old conversations. I've never had those types of conversations with anyone before. I really enjoy being with you. Think I'm falling in love with you. I don't know if you feel the same way as I do. I don't know where I expect this to go. All I know is that I want to be with you. I want to hold you. I want to be close to you. I was stunned. My brain was spinning furiously, trying to think of something to say while simultaneously trying to sort out my own feelings toward him. I couldn't open my mouth. I just sat there speechless and looked into those eyes of his. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have told you that. You have enough to think about and deal with without me adding to your troubles. I'll leave you to your bath. He got up and started toward the door. I didn't want him to go. All the whirling thoughts in my head locked into place. I felt exactly the same as he did. I didn't understand it, but I wanted to be with him. Stop, please, don't go, I said. He turned and looked at me again. A few days ago, I would have said you were crazy if you thought I'd ever have feelings for a guy. Then I met you and things began to change. I don't know what it is, but every time you touch me or look at me, I melt. That is something totally new for me. I'm scared and don't know what those feelings mean. You kissed me and deep down I knew that I'd fallen in love with you. I just couldn't admit it to myself. I never thought you'd feel the same way. I want to be with you. I want to find out where this will lead. Tears were falling down my face again, but this time it was tears of joy. A smile crept across his face as I spoke. As I finished, he stepped back across the room and swept me up in his arms. Gabby, I would like nothing more than to find out where this road may go. With you by my side, it is bound to be a wonderful journey. His lips met mine. I shivered with delight as he pulled me closer. There was no other place I'd rather be. Jensen's attorneys managed to delay his trial for almost a year. All those delays did nothing to improve his chances. The trial itself was relatively short. His lawyers tried every trick in the book, but the U.S. attorneys were ready for just about anything that they could throw at them. Their case was bulletproof and they knew it. It took the jury less than an hour to convict him of treason and various other crimes. Jensen never made it to the sentencing. He killed himself in his cell. Katie and I were free, with no one to pay for a filled contract. We were no longer in any danger. My life was forever changed the day I helped Katie. I am amazed that I survived. I'm even more amazed by the people I have met. Duncan and Max are like my surrogate fathers. They look out for me and have given me a place to live, learn, and work. Yes, I did end up accepting their offer to drive for them. Mostly, I just chauffeur around spoiled movie stars who seem to think that they are in some sort of mortal danger even though they are not. It is really good money and I do get to meet some of the biggest stars in Hollywood. Katie has been a lifesaver. I have learned so much from her. She has the lifetime of experiences that I lack and is as willing to teach as I am to learn. She even kept her promise and taught me how to use lockpicks. She gave me my own set as a gift after I managed to break into her car and fill it with animal-shaped balloons. I doubt I'll ever use them, but who knows, maybe I'll lock my keys in the car someday. She keeps calling me her little sister even though I'm at least 8 inches taller than her. She is 2 years older, so I guess she has some grounds to call me little. Of all the wonderful things that have come with my new position, Bax has got to be the best. We have spent quite a lot of time together over the past few months getting to know each other. We have much in common, but we also have enough differences to keep each other interested. My body has changed and I am as close to the girl I should have been as I will likely ever be. Bax has been there with me through everything, the therapy sessions, hormone treatments, and the few cosmetic procedures that were deemed necessary. He cautioned me and made me stop and think before I did anything permanent. I still sometimes wonder if I'm doing the right thing with him. I can't help but think he deserves a real girl. Every time that thought runs through my head, he always seems to know. One kiss from him is all it takes to remind me how much he loves me and wants to be with me. It's that same kiss that tells me I am a real girl. I may not have been born that way, but I am now and will be for the rest of my life. I don't think I could ever find anyone else like him. He has asked me to marry him. Katie knew he was going to. She said I'd be crazy not to accept. She was right. I would be crazy not to accept. He was so happy when I said yes. I was so happy when I said yes. Life is funny. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it changes just when you need it to the most.